Hey, good people, this is your NI Dom back with another YouTube reflection, and this is a personal journal for contemplative people looking to think, grow, and have impact in the world. So, hey, I'm here to talk about masterminding, and I know I've talked about the mastermind before. I believe I've done it in the YouTube account and on podcast number 2. But I've just ran into a new content creator. I believe his name is John, so you're going to hear me refer to him as INTJ John because he's an INTJ. And I believe he's a man of color, but I haven't heard him identify as such yet, and so that's a big deal. I don't believe in giving people identities. But if that isn't in case true, I'm going to turn some cartwheels, but I'll talk about that at another time or when that time comes. But so far, every piece of content that I listen to, and I think I've only listened to 4 of his pieces, I've been just amazed and inspired and encouraged and just deeply respect the work that he's doing. And he's fairly new last few months. Except today, he put out some content that I'm going to disagree with. And the title of the content was INTJs Are Not Masterminds. And I was like, that title caught my attention. I said, let me hit the play button and see what this brother is talking about. And I listened to it twice. So I'm going to share this link with him. I don't know if he'll listen, but I'm going to respond to that content and challenge it. And he says INTJs are not masterminds. And I'm going to challenge that. And but I'm going to do it out loud just in case this will benefit someone else, in addition to me giving this feedback to a content creator who may never listen or may never respond. All right. If you're new to me, if you're new to this project, this is a personal journal where I process my inner and my outer worlds. I have a full list of disclaimers that set me apart from other INTJs and from other content. But to know more about me or my project, please feel free to go to my website at yournidom.wordpress.com. I only have 15 minutes, so got to get right to it. I had to listen to his content a second time through because I really had a hard time hearing where he was making a case about us not being a mastermind. And he was making points challenging how other people have described us that I was like, yep, spot on. And one of the points that I want to highlight is that many people, when they're giving content about the INTJs, are not INTJs. So they can only talk about INTJ-ness from observing us, but they don't know what happens in our internal landscape. So he makes that distinction pretty well. He does a good job, and I'm both pleased by him taking the time and the delivery of it. In addition to challenging how we have been described by outsiders, he makes an argument about the unconsciousness or the subconsciousness of our effectiveness, of our genius, if you will, our giftedness. And he really talks a lot about the power of NITE, introverted intuition and extroverted thinking. Those two together. He didn't use this terminology, but really it's like a beast, right? You put those two together, we're unstoppable. And so what he says in this piece is that those two functions can produce results that might look like we're masterminding, but we're not sitting around planning the mastermind. It's something that happens pretty much unconscious. We're not planning it. We're not sitting around. It's something that just happens. And I agree with that at about 80%. I'm going to come back to that one second. And the last thing he said I want to just make note of until I give my opinion is that INTJs are not as smart as we try to portray ourselves to be, or we're not automatically smart. And that's an interesting thing that he said, because in another video that I want to respond to, he talks about 2 traits that make INTJs attractive, our intelligence and our confidence. And so I'm thinking to myself, oftentimes you hear me in my podcast going, I know it sounds like I contradicted myself. I didn't. There's some nuance here. So I'm curious about the nuance to his positioning that INTJs are not just smart, yet we have an intelligence. I believe there's some nuance there that I would love for him to expound upon. Um, now I'm getting ready to weigh in on all three of those and tell you why I think we are masterminds. I think the distinction is capital M mastermind and lowercase m mastermind. All INTJs do lowercase mastermind. And that is, we can see solutions. Most of the times, this is my thinking, and I don't profess, let me just do this disclaimer. I am not a Myers-Briggs expert, although I'm very well informed about Myers-Briggs and cognitive function. I don't bill myself as an expert because I am an expert in my field. And when you are an expert in something, you know when you're not. So I do leave this work to the experts. And so I often say, if I say something that you disagree with, go and do your own homework. So this is kind of like a friendly disagreement. Like, I'm not overly taking myself seriously. Like, I mean, if he's invested enough to come out on a YouTube channel and give advice, I'm going to trust that. But I'm saying for me living as an INTJ and observing the INTJs that I know, this is where I'm coming from, all right? And I think you also have to factor in the environment context, the context such as the environment, some socio-political conditions. You hear me talking about this in my podcast, race, gender, social class, all of the occupation, education, all of those things factor in terms of how we mastermind for the INTJ. But in a general sense, lowercase m masterminding, in my opinion, is that we not only come up with a solution that other people can't see, like that's the introverted intuition. We're coming up with solutions that other people can't see. And because they can't see it and we can come up with a solution, it might look like we're putting a lot of time into coming up with that solution. Because clearly you would have had to put a lot of time in to come up with a solution because other people didn't see it. And that's just not how we roll. We're seeing things you just don't see, and the solution is paired with that because of our extroverted thinking. So when you take NINTE, you put them together, we see problems other people don't see, and we have the ability to come up with solutions, and we're coming up with solutions to those things that you cannot see. Doesn't mean it's a laborious act. It can be pretty effortless because that's happening subconsciously. So not only does an INTJ come up with solutions that other people can't see, and like there's an awness in that, like, how did you do that? How did you see that? So there's that. And we're coming up with complex solutions to complex problems. Or let me say it differently. We're coming up with simple solutions to complex problems. Our solution doesn't usually solve one problem. Our solutions solve several problems that are interconnected and compounded. And we come up with a way of simplifying it to come up with a very simple, easy to implement, apply solution. A solution that's easy to implement and apply. That's lowercase m. And I believe every INTJ can do it. No, it doesn't mean we're sitting around planning at the lowercase m. It doesn't mean that we're spending a lot of time thinking about it. It is just effortless. It is something that happens in the subconscious realm because of the relationship between introverted intuition and extroverted thinking. But just because we are not consciously planning, and just because we're not spending a lot of time doing it, doesn't mean it's not a mastermind. If it is a simple solution to a complex problem, that's a mastermind. This is my opinion, okay? But that's lowercase m, and I believe all INTJs do it. Now let's go up, and I got to close here. Let's go up a level to uppercase M. That's the capital M, mastermind. Some of us are planning long range solutions to big universal problems because we are seeing it. Now, that could be related to our station in the world. That could be related to our training, our occupation. But we can see problems that are far out, more macro related, not micro, but macro. And we see solutions. And the higher up you go, the further out you get, the more effort you have to put in that solution. And so there is a capital M masterminding that happens that is strategic, that is thought out, it is time consuming, and you still achieve results. And if you've implemented any solution that has taken multiple years to do so, you will understand where I'm coming from. Some of our masterminding, lowercase m, happens, well, it looks like it happens instantly, but more than likely it's been ruminating in the unconsciously. We just don't know it. And so when it appears, it just appears. That's lowercase m. And it's micro. It's still complex. It still solves multiple problems. Simple solution. But it didn't take time. It didn't take a lot of time, conscious time. And it didn't take a lot of planning, not conscious planning. But there is a capital uppercase M that is effortful. It is strategic. It is long-ranging. It is macro. And we can still get in there and solve it. Now, I'm not saying every INTJ can, but if it's going to happen, if it's a long-range plan that requires multiple levels, multiple processes, multiple systems, more than likely that's going to be an INTJ to do that. So that's my opinion. And I can bring the receipts because I've done that. But anyway, it'd be interesting to see if he responds and see what he says about it. All right. You guys, if this reflection has had any value, please give it a heart. If my moving about, playfully responding to this young man about the INTJ mastermind, he said it is not, what did he say? INTJs are not masterminds. And I'm saying INTJs are masterminds. If me playfully moving about in this reflection relates to a conversation you've had in the world, please take this link and share it with those participants. I have a very small community of about 15 people. And so if I'm going to build the community, I like to build it with people who kind of think like me. And if my moving about has caused some randomness in you, I would love to hear it. You can find me on my website at yourinidom.wordpress.com. I am on Twitter. I share a lot of articles on Twitter. I don't really engage, but I do share links. YourNIDOM1, and then of course YouTube and Facebook at YourNIDOM. You guys, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Until I come back, be well. Bye.